And what came out of this study was that your life stories give you the passion to lead. That's where you find your passion. One great example is Andrea Jung. Andrea Jung is CEO of Avon Products. Avon Products has 5.5 million people working under Andrea. Many of these are sales reps that are not employees. Most of them are. 1 million people in Brazil, 300,000 in China, going to 1 million. Can you imagine? I don't know any organization in the world that has 5.5 million people in it. Andrea is from a very disciplined Chinese-American family, and she was on her route to be CEO of Neiman Marcus. At 31, she was executive vice president. At 35, she quit cold turkey. She came to my classroom. I said, Andrea, in front of the students, why did you quit? She said, because I did not want to devote my life to making luxury goods for the upper 1/10 to 1% of American women. And she quit without a job, and 9 months later, she went to work for Avon. She actually got passed over for CEO, but when she became CEO 20 months later, she changed the company's mission from cosmetics to the empowerment of women, because she said that's what we're really about. And her passion is to help people achieve economic self-sufficiency. I asked her about microfinance. She said, well, that's actually what we do. People don't have money in Brazil to buy $100 worth of inventory. We loan them the money, then they have their own little businesses, and they go down the Amazon and create their own business. And she said, that's what really turns me on. So see that passion coming into the life story. And so I found that every leader I've studied who has failed to lead themselves. And so what we heard from these leaders is you have to develop yourself. It's no different than being a cellist and going to Carnegie Hall, or being an athlete and riding as Lance Armstrong did in the Tour de France. You have to develop yourself. You can have gifts, but so each of us has to develop ourselves as a leader. So let me talk just for a few minutes about 5 areas where you need to develop yourself as a leader. The first of them is self-awareness. The Oracle of Delphi said, know yourself. Well, that's easier said than done. How do you know yourself? I think the best way to know yourself is by getting feedback. As Joel Peterson up at Stanford said, feedback is the breakfast of champions. I think people that don't get feedback are doomed to go off the wrong way. 360 feedback is one of the best things you can get. In fact, one of the great stories of the book came from Doug Baker, who is now CEO of Ecolab. But at the time, he was a young guy running a subsidiary company in North Carolina, and he decided, Center for Creative Leadership is there, let's go out and do 360 feedback. I'll be the first to go. And so he asked all his subordinates to give him feedback. And he said, I got this back. It was like a flash in the mirror. When you see yourself at your absolute ugliest. And it told me it was arrogant, conceited, pushing my own agenda, insensitive to other people. So then I went off with 8 other heads of companies, and I was a really nice guy. And at the end of the week, I was the last one of the 8 to get feedback. And you know what? They told me the same thing my subordinates did. So I knew I had a problem. So I went back to each of them and said, here's what you told me. Here's what you told me. Will you help me? Will you help me become a better leader? And so he really took that feedback in, changed his leadership style and his leadership substance, and now later became CEO 7 years later, and he's become just an outstanding CEO of a mid-sized company, about $5-6 billion in sales. And you'll hear more from him. The second area is testing and staying true to your values under pressure. It's not hard to state your values. It's not hard to practice your values when things are going your way. The question is that everyone's watching you as a leader is, what do you do under pressure? John Huntsman, who's now head of Huntsman Chemical, tells the story as a young person when he was working in the Nixon White House under Chief of Staff Bob Haldeman. And Haldeman called him to his office one day, and he said, John, he said, we got a congressman out in California who's opposing the president's initiatives. What I want you to do is I want you to call this plant manager. Here's a number. Call him up. And I want you to get him to put 10 illegal immigrants in this congressman's plant. And then we're going to have a sting operation, send some federal agents in and catch him and embarrass him. And so John went along with the scheme. And he said, sometimes you act before you think about what's right and wrong. So I called the plant manager, and after about 15 minutes, he said, my inner moral compass made itself noticed. And I realized this is not right. So I told the plant manager, forget that I ever called. I'm not going to play this game. But then went on to say, I knew instantly that was the end of my White House career, because Bob Haldeman, when I went back to him and told him I wasn't going to do this, it was the ultimate act of disloyalty. So I quit, and as he said, so be it, I moved on. But later in his life, when he faced huge values challenges with bankruptcy and all, this early experience of staying true to his values became really defining for him. And so I think that there's no substitute for testing your values under pressure. The third area, your motivations. We all like money, fame, glory, power. We like a pay increase. We like recognition of our peers. There's nothing wrong with that, but if that's all that's motivating you, I think you're at risk of becoming a glory seeker. And we need to balance that with our intrinsic motivations, making a difference in the world, helping other people, leaving something behind, developing a great organization, mentoring people, whatever it is, creating a family. What are your intrinsic motivations? And those need to be balanced with your extrinsic. Kevin Shear, who is now CEO of Amgen, blew out of GE to become CEO of MCI. He got there quickly and found out he was not in line to be CEO. He got handed his head for being a glory seeker. And he learned in the next 2 years, with great pain and difficulty, that life was about more than that. And when he had a chance to go to Amgen, he found a wonderful company that, in his mind, could really make a difference in the world. And so he was able to balance those motivations. I also believe in having a support team, and I would urge all of you to think now, regardless of where you are in life, if you don't have a support team, build one, because you can't wait until the crisis comes. It starts with having one person in your life with whom you can be totally 100% honest and open, and who knows you better than anyone. It may be your spouse, your significant other, maybe your best friend, it might be your mentor, or it could be your therapist. But you need to have someone you can talk to who can really give you that honest feedback and say, as my spouse does, Bill, do you hold a mirror up to my face? Is that really the way you wanted to act around those people today? Is that the impression you want to try to create because you weren't yourself? I also believe in having a support group. I've been very blessed to have a men's group that I've been meeting with for 30 years, every Wednesday morning from 7:15 to 8:30, and we talk about life. We talk about difficulties. And a few years ago, when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had somewhere to go to talk to a group of people because I was scared, I was in denial. She was scared. She wasn't in denial, but she was scared. And to have a group of people like that that you know will be there through thick and thin. As one person in our study said, you know, who lost his job, he got fired, he said, you find out who your real friends are when you lose your job, or if you lose your marriage, or if you lose the things, or if you get accused of something unfairly, you find out who your real friends are. And when things are going well, you got a lot of hangers-on that call yourself their friends. But it's really important to know who can you count on, who will really be there to support you, because leadership is a lonely situation oftentimes. It doesn't have to be, but it can be made a lot less lonely by having a support team. Final area comes out of the question that all my MBA students ask is, can I have a successful career and successful work, a successful home life? Can I have a real personal life and a successful career? Can I be really successful at both, or do I have to compromise one? Why do they ask this? Because they've seen their parents' generation, so many people have made those compromises, and they don't want to do it. My response is this. There are huge pressures out there. There are a lot of companies these days will take every minute you give them. We asked with a young man the other day who was at UCLA, and they took 120 hours a week out of him. You know, they'll take anything you'll give them. But he had no balance in his life, and he lost the relationship he had. Fortunately, he wasn't married at that point, but still, I think you need to think about your life in an integrated sense. To have that integrity, you need to be the same person in all those environments, at home, in your work life, in your community, and in your personal life. And if you can be that same person, and you can set boundaries around the various aspects of your life, so no one part of your life dominates, I think you can have a very fulfilling life and be successful in both areas. I made the call to coach soccer for 13 years, and I would leave meetings at both Honeywell and Medtronic at 5:30 to get to the soccer field. We had 6 o'clock practice or 6 o'clock games. And I know some people thought it was a little strange. I didn't mind working from 9:30 to midnight to make up whatever I hadn't done, but I had to set that boundary. And I think we all need, whatever your boundaries are, we need to set our boundaries around the various aspects of our life so we have time, including time for ourselves, which sometimes with a busy job and young kids is hard to do. So when these 5 things come together, I think you've learned how to lead yourself. And then I think you'll find that empowering other people to lead becomes much easier because you can be that authentic, genuine leader with your people. When Ann Mulcahy was selected as CEO of the Xerox Corporation, the company was facing bankruptcy. Mulcahy had zero financial experience, getting beaten up by the lawyers, the bankers, the stock market. Everyone wanted to declare bankruptcy and get out from under this mound of debt. Cash is going out the door at a rate of about $2 billion a year, and she had nowhere to go except one place. And she'd spent 25 years building relationships with people in the organization, with customers. And so she turned to that and went out there and went to the top 100 people in the company and said, will you support me? Will you help me save? I want to save this great company. And it is worthy of being saved. There's not going to be a lot of bonuses around here, no salary increases. A lot of people are going to have to lose their jobs. But will you help me save this company? And she built, if you will, this shared context, common mission of restoring Xerox to greatness. And she did it on the basis of relationships of trust that she'd built over 25 years. And today, if you walk through the Xerox cafeteria, you'll find, you shouldn't have to be with you. In fact, it's better if she's not. You'll find incredible loyalty to Ann Mulcahy because she brought people together in its darkest hours and is now leading them through the full restoration of the company. And I think she's an example. I give you many, many more of a truly empowering leader because, you know, she was able to bring people together. She didn't know more about tech. She didn't know much about technology at all. She didn't know anything about finance. She didn't know much about manufacturing, so she empowered other people to step up and lead. But she helped provide that context. And they knew that Ann was always true to the values of serving customers and running the company with integrity. Well, to me, that's what 21st century leadership is all about. It's being who you are, being an authentic leader, developing yourself along the lines I described, and then empowering other people to lead. And if you do that, I would close by contending to you that there is nothing more fulfilling in your professional life. There's nothing to give you a greater sense of joy and fulfillment than coming together with a group of people around a common purpose, as I had the privilege of doing in Medtronic, taking on unbelievably tough goals, getting knocked down, getting setbacks, encountering barriers, finding a way around them, finding a way to get there to that finish line all together, taking just a minute to pause and say, you know, we had great success, and then going on to the next level. To me, that is the fulfillment of leadership. And there's nothing in your professional life that is more fulfilling than being able to lead following your true north and being true to what you believe in, to empower a group of people to come together and achieve great objectives and goals and make a great contribution to the world. Thank you very much.